Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara Presents is back once again with another live broadcast on a subject, that I thought I was done with and would never have to repeat again. And for reasons that I'm going to share with you, it's back again. And I am going to talk tonight about how, when, where, and why everybody needs to have a corporation. Almost everyone. I actually had a webinar called Why Almost Everyone Should Have an S-corp, and I think I'm going to redo that one. And the reason why I'm talking about this again, because if you go back to my YouTube channel, things I've written about all throughout the years, I've talked about this time and time again. And when I started putting together these lives and looking at what kind of content I was going to put out there, because let's face it, when it comes to accounting and bookkeeping, there's only so many things that I can talk about to keep it interesting. And a lot of times I will bring on a guest, do an interview, or talk about some kind of out of the box principle or mindset, stuff that really isn't in my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is really setting up a new business, organizing it, and structuring it in a sequence that can produce positive cash flow. And that simple concept is what I need to focus on. And I said, but this is such a simple concept. I'm going to run out of content. And the truth is, today I was on my friend John Limbacher's weekly broadcast where he talks about his ACT program. And his ACT program is a marketing protocol that he designed specifically for people like me, people that know absolutely nothing about marketing and need a step-by-step approach that's going to work, and everything's in sequence. And I I looked at what he was doing, and today, again, he was going through the stuff that when I started following his program in 2016, I said, this is the same sequence. I said, this goes back to his original infographic that showed what he called the perfect sales sequence. And it was a visual, really, of a sales funnel and all the different steps that have to go along the way. And as he's explaining it, he was reminding me about stuff that I guess I had just taken for granted. So these issues, so it dawned on me, I said, maybe I still got to talk about this. Maybe I'll never stop talking about the legal structure of a business, because it's of paramount importance. I cannot stress how important this issue. And the reason why I have the Google thing up here is because I'm going to show you exactly. And I started late. There was an incident, a happy incident. My attorney's son, who I believe, because of his position, could not do any kind of law work, no kind of outside legal work. He's a court clerk. He's a judge's clerk for an appellate, New York State appellate judge. So I think it's a little tricky for him to go out and get outside clients. Anyway, so he called me because his he has a child, my granddaughter, in a daycare center, and they need some help, some assist, some legal, maybe some legal and financial assistance. And he called me to see if I was willing to help. Uh, I've been waiting for a day like this for a long time, and it's good to know that your family respects you enough to call you for advice on business. You know, if you're a parent, you know, my idea was my two sons and my daughter were going to help me grow my business, and they wanted nothing to do with accounting. Anyway, getting off the subject, I'm very proud of my son, and now, you know, the thing is, he was trying to explain to me why he wants to help these people. It's a pro bono thing, which is probably why they're going to allow him to do it. But he said, Dad, these people need help. They're a small business. They probably don't get the right legal or business advice, and they need help. And he wants to help them. And you know, it was just I guess I did something right because I believe the same thing. And it's about really helping people. And it irks me when I see people getting the wrong advice, bad advice. And it happened the other day with a client where we were online with an attorney, and she was giving advice in an area that she has no experience in, which is tax preparation, tax planning and preparation. And she was totally off base, and I was listening to her about the rationale between an LLC and an s-corp, and she got the legal aspects right, which I would expect an attorney to do about the legal aspects. But the tax implications, even as far as where the business should be registered, she was just totally off base. And I had to let them know that I didn't agree with her, and I was sticking to my guns, and I still am, and I will go to my grave with this, with the information that I'm going to give you now, which is, folks, how, when, where, and why you should incorporate your business. And like I said, the story hasn't changed. What changed was, as I was thinking about this, and I want to point out, I end at 7, and according to my clock, I have about 11 minutes. And I'm still going to cover all of those things because that's how simple it is. And as I was writing my little blurb for tonight, it dawned on me that all this confusion, because before LLCs, all there were corporations pretty much. You could have partnerships, but they were really for real estate and legal and accounting practices. Those are the people that had partnerships. Okay, but basically, if you were in business, you either had a corporation or sole proprietorship. So if you were a sole proprietor and you came to a firm that I worked at, chances are that we would incorporate you. What I learned a couple of years ago was that 25 out of the, I'm going to slow down, 25 out of the 30 million businesses are unincorporated sole proprietors for tax purposes. And the distinction is that if you're an LLC and you don't tell them what you want to do for tax purposes, you're a sole proprietor. So you're back to being the worst kind of classification. So being an LLC is going to cover you for legal reasons, but it ain't going to help at all for tax purposes. So my question is, if you're going to set up an entity and pay whatever it costs, you know, the state or whoever's incorporating you, and I'm going to show you how you can do it for free here. Plus, you know, you got to pay the state filing fees. But if you're going to do that, why not cover the legal and the tax area? You kill two birds with one stone. It's common sense. So what happened was, what was never really a complicated issue became complicated because they came up with these LLCs. And LLCs were designed, people, for large partnerships that wanted the tax benefits of a flow-through entity without the legal liability. So what would happen if you invested in an oil drill, an oil company, and you were a limited partner and you had all of these losses? You couldn't deduct them technically unless you had gains at something else. So these investors, rich people, had all of these tax benefits that were just sitting there, and they created the LLC as an alternative to the limited liability partnerships. I shouldn't say LLPs, because this was even before limited liability partnerships or limited liability companies. There are entities called limited partnerships where you're limited, only the general partner has legal liability. So people have taken what was designed for coal mines, for oil drills, for real estate. These are passive activities with tax benefits that people invest in these entities. People don't invest in a small business. We start small businesses and we start as sole proprietors. So you don't want to turn into a legal entity that doesn't fit what you're trying to accomplish, which is to run a business without legal liability or as limited as possible. Unless you commit fraud or an illegal act. If you do that, you're still not covered. But this is for civil liability, for legal protection of your personal assets. So that's why you want to incorporate. Okay. Or even set up an LLC for legal protection. Now, you want to be a corporation for tax protection. You want to have flexibility on what you can do for taxes. So that's why you don't get that as a sole proprietor, and you don't get the tax benefits as an LLC. So now I am going to show you how you can incorporate on your own, which is it goes by whatever state you're in. So this is the how and the where. Okay. In the state that you are living in, that you are conducting your business, and no business is conducted on the internet. You might do business through the internet, but you're conducting your business from where you're physically located. You don't get a choice. You don't get a choice on incorporating in Delaware or Nevada, unless you want to do that and just cause more work for yourself. Because if you incorporate in Delaware, Nevada, Washington, Wyoming, whatever one of those states, or Texas, that have no state income taxes, you're still going to have to be registered to do business in your own state. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Secretary of State, because that's where you register a business. And you could see that I just did one in North Carolina. But let's do one that I haven't done yet. Let's do Alaska. And I want to do this just to show you how now, I've never been on the Alaska. Well, I have been here, but not for a long time. I haven't incorporated anybody in Alaska yet. But this is what you do. So I just went here. I went to business, and right away I see corporations. Now, a business license, that's something separate. Okay, a business license, depending on the jurisdiction, you may also have to get a business license. Like in California, the state, you incorporate in California, but if you live in Los Angeles County, you also have to register as a business. So don't be confused. The first step here is we want to incorporate. So we're going to go to corporations here. And now what we're talking about, people, and this goes with another why, is attorneys, the government, they claim that being incorporated is more complicated than being a sole proprietor. And it is. It is. But not a lot more complicated. It's a little more complicated. It's a little more complicated because first you have to incorporate. You got to get a separate tax ID number. And then every year you probably have to pay some kind of filing fee, and you also have to file a separate corporate return. But if you're in business, that's part of the administrative responsibility that comes with being in business. It's like, even if you're a sole proprietor, if you want to sell stuff, if you want to open up a store, you have to register as a sales tax vendor, whether you're incorporated or not. So people don't, not sell retail because they got to collect sales tax. They're going to register to do that. And if you have employees, you're going to register to pay payroll taxes and withhold payroll taxes. You're not going to not do it because it's too complicated. You're going to do it because it's part of doing business. So the excuse that opening a corporation is more complicated is just not enough of an excuse. It's not enough of a reason, especially for single owner entities. And that's what we are talking about. Now, also, if you're a professional, if you're a CPA, a lawyer, a health professional, anything that requires a professional license, you have to go through a whole another process where you're probably going to have to go through your state licensing board and be granted permission to do business as a corporation. So that's just another hoop you got to jump through. And it doesn't change the fact that you should still do it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to corporations. And so every Secretary of State's website is different. And for some reason it's not, okay. Corporations, forms and fees. So I guess the link took me here. Now what we want to do quickly. Okay. Find forms by entity type. Okay, so you could see, I had to do a little bit of searching, but within a couple of minutes. So what you want to do is, so foreign means not Alaska, not foreign countries, foreign states. So if you live in Alaska, you're going to file a domestic corporation. Now you could file it online or you could file it by paper. I usually do it online. Now, most of these Secretary of States are making you register first. So you'll get if they make you register, you'll register, and then you'll go to online filing, and you're just going to answer a few simple questions. Okay, and nothing, and so nothing is beyond. So an NICS a code, they're going to give them to you. What kind of business is it? Is it retail? Okay, so you're just going to pick, if you're into timber tract operations, they want to know what kind of business. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the registered agent. You should be your own registered agent for two reasons. Any notices will come directly to you instead of somebody else, and you don't have to pay yourself for being a registered agent. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it, folks. That's, oh, and I didn't tell you when. When should you should incorporate as soon as you figure out that you have a valuable business. Okay, it's as simple as that, folks. When you figure out that you have a viable business, now in Alaska, it costs you $250 to incorporate. It costs you $0 to get a federal tax ID number. It costs you $0 to file to become an S corporation. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you could contact me, and I actually have a course that I can send you to do it yourself. And or if you'd like me to do it, I do have special setting up corporations. You can just go to timewithjoe.com, set up an appointment with me, a free chat, and that's my story. I'm sticking with it. God bless you, and good night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.